Is the Major League Baseball draft inherently anti-labor? A reporter asked that question of MLB Players Association Executive Director Tony Clark, and his response was simply yes. Limiting and restricting the opportunities of entry, I'll stand here, and I did at the bargaining table, suggesting that I'd like to remove all of it, Clark said at the All-Star break. Abolishing the MLB Draft. Could baseball become the first professional sport to do it? And if it were to happen, how would that work? The most modern example of avoiding the pitfalls of the MLB's amateur draft revolves around 19-year-old Florida prospect Carter Stewart. Stewart was drafted 8th overall by the Atlanta Braves in the 2018 MLB Draft, starting him down a road where Clark sees problems. Let's look at 4 of the biggest issues with the MLB Draft. Number 1, players are unable to choose their place of work. If a non-athlete wanted to gain employment or switch jobs, they're free to look at any state, any location, any company that fits their skill set and experience. They can even negotiate their own salary. So when the Atlanta Braves selected Carter Stewart, he was locked into living and working in Atlanta, a decision he had zero say in. With no MLB draft, players could choose their destination. Issue number 2, slot value. In the MLB Draft, every team is assigned an amount of money they can pay their draftees signing bonuses, and each pick is assigned a maximum signing bonus value. If a team goes over that number, they have to pay a tax, severely limiting what drafted players can earn in their rookie deal. In the 2018 draft, the Tigers' number 1 pick was worth over $8 million, and the slot value gradually decreases as the draft picks progress. For the 8th pick, the Braves had a slot value of nearly $5 million they could give to Stewart. Fearing he was injured, the Braves actually offered him far less than his slot value, about $2 million, to join the organization. With no MLB draft, not only would players be able to surpass predetermined signing bonus values, but they wouldn't be tied to one team who has the power to lowball them out of millions. Issue number 3, service time requirements. After a player is drafted, he must accrue 6 full years of service at the major league level before he can even qualify to become a free agent. What's more, a year of service time is considered 172 days in the big leagues, while the season is just 187 days long. So what happens if a player gets called up and plays 171 days with the big club? That's right, it still doesn't count toward his 6 years of service time. The case of Bryant was one of the first prime examples given public attention. Drafted in 2013 by the Cubs, Bryant spent 2 years in the minors. In the 174 games, he hit 49 home runs and drove in 142 runs. He led Major League Baseball in home runs in spring training in 2015, but the Cubs sent him down to AAA to start the season to preserve an extra year before he could become a free agent. At the time, the MLBPA said, "Today is a bad day for baseball," because of Chicago's clear service time manipulation. Carter Stewart wanted to avoid all that. So in a surprising move, he signed a 6-year, $7 million contract with a team in Japan's Pacific League. By signing in Japan, Stewart stands to make more than he would from his Major League Baseball draft signing bonus, then could return to the United States in 2024 as a 25-year-old free agent, free to sign with any club he chooses. Issue number 4 with the draft, tanking. The worse a team's record, the better their odds of getting a top draft pick. So your team is in the middle of the pack without a good shot to win a World Series? Cut payroll, accrue top draft picks, suffer for a few years, and rebuild into a winner with low-cost players through the draft. That's what the Astros did. In 2013, Houston's opening day payroll was just $22 million, last in all of Major League Baseball. That team won 51 games and assured Houston a high draft spot. The wins steadily increased, as did the payroll. In 2017, the year Houston won the World Series, its opening day bill was $117 million, knowing they were going to be competitive. It wasn't until 2019, when their younger talent became more expensive and the team continued to focus on winning, did they reach the top 10 in opening day payroll, hitting $147 million, 8th in the league. In a system without a draft, Houston would have been able to grab their young talent earlier, bring them up to the big leagues whenever they pleased, and perhaps competed in a quicker fashion without subjecting their fans to terrible baseball. As Major League Baseball grapples with a record drop in attendance, that fan support appears to be key. Picturing MLB without an amateur draft has free market optimists like super agent Scott Boras seeing dollar signs. At the 2019 MLB Draft, the number 1 pick slot value was just more than $8 million. The Orioles drafted catcher Adley Rutschman, but what could he have commanded on the open market? A $50 million deal? More? But Commissioner Rob Manfred is a pro-draft guy. In fact, he may even look into a second draft for international players. And while it's a long shot to see the MLB amateur draft go by the wayside, Tony Clark could use his anti-draft stance as a bargaining chip for future player compensation negotiations in other areas he sees as deficiencies. At least Clark is discussing the abolition of the MLB draft, and that's how it would work.